Hello YouTube, it is Rafael here from xxRafael Productions, and today I'm going to be doing a comparison video with this old Lenovo ThinkPad versus the new Lenovo ThinkPads, and I will talk about why Lenovo screwed up their design but actually managed to change it back, which is a good thing because there are certain people who prefer using a trackpad or the track point like this. Like, in my personal opinion, when it comes to using a ThinkPad, or I type in the terminal, for example, I'm gonna type with one hand because I'm carrying my camera, but I prefer being able to use the keyboard without having to take my hand to navigate the trackpad. So it becomes very more convenient to use. But they're also gonna talk about the basics of design and talking about why, compared to how this old trackpad used to be versus the new one, which is currently on the screen right now, and why it was such a stupid idea to change it to that in the first place. Now, I know that they're trying to get it similar to the MacBook Air or Pro, like this, for example. They want a one-button trackpad. Now, I am mainly a Mac user, and I also know that despite Lenovo trying to emulate the design of the MacBook Pros, unfortunately, they take how it looks like, but they don't actually take what makes a trackpad good in the first place. Whereas, if I were to compare this one, and go ahead and actually bring them closer together. So, this one is very convenient to use because if you're say I'm on Linux right now, which is Linux Mint, and I'm going to want to I'm gonna want to operate one of these buttons. Now let's compare that to the one that I'm gonna show on screen. If I touch the right click, but you press middle click, it will register a right click because since this button is a one button trackpad, this whole trackpad is one button, it becomes very inconvenient to use because you accidentally hit one of the other buttons, and the result of that is that it's very, very hard to get used to because you have to kind of if you notice this trackpad over here, you can see how the middle button that you use to scroll, let me go ahead and demonstrate. If you are a ThinkPad user, you usually hit the middle button and use the track point to scroll, as I can see here. That is what I use to scroll when it comes to the track point. Now, the problem with the other one is that since these buttons are separate, it becomes very easy to simply just do this, type, and then scroll whenever you want to. But another good design, a subtle design that the ThinkPad designers did before in the older T420 ThinkPads, this was made in 2011, and it is still suited me very well when it comes to working in these kind of environments. These are actually shaped as a trapezoid type of shape, so it makes it easier when you're bending your finger. But you don't have to bend your finger. It's the way your natural hands are set up. It becomes very easy. It's convenient to work, and that is what makes this trackpad great. So, an example of another track point would be this Dell Latitude. It's an E6320 model. I'm gonna compare that to this one right here. If you notice, the buttons are similar to the new Lenovo ThinkPad, but at least this one still has separate buttons, which is good. Though, why am I bitching now? So it's basically when I'm trying to use this, it still feels a lot more uncomfortable because of the way these buttons are set up. You accidentally might click the left or the right because this is always a rectangle. So moving on back to this one, it is very easy and convenient. I don't even have to change my finger like this. I can just simply do that. Whereas in the other Lenovo ThinkPad, if I were to use that kind of approach, I will have to bend it because if I hit one of the wrong buttons, yeah, you are not middle clicking, you are right clicking or either left clicking as it tricks like crazy. I want you to notice if I search up my Lenovo ThinkPad T440, because this laptop is the epitome of everything wrong with the current ThinkPads. Well, what used to be the current ThinkPads. Now let me go ahead and find a good picture of the keyboard and trackpad. Okay, let's look at this one. So, if you notice, I want you to see what is wrong with the keyboard exactly. I will give you a few seconds, and hopefully you get the same thought as I do. Go. So if you think like I do, well, that is simply due to the fact that they actually put the volume buttons on the function keys. Now, that makes it very inconvenient if you are doing things like programming, or if you're doing with applications, working with those apps where they need to use the function keys a lot, because if previous keys that could be used, now you have to either hold down the function key or disable the function key lock, and that sucks, because the good thing about the ThinkPad is how it usually works right out of the box. You don't have to do extra configurations just to do a simple task. Now, what do I mean when I say it becomes inconvenient? Well, I'll refer back to my other ThinkPad and show you an example of what I use that will require the use of function keys a lot. So being a computer science student as well in school, like there are certain shortcuts that I use. Let me go ahead and show you right here. If I were to go to run, can you see if I zoom in on this, let me go ahead and zoom in. If you notice how it says F11, I kind of like shortcut keys in example, like I used to have it on this ThinkPad, but it got removed. So let me just go ahead and show you what I also use with it. And this is also, let's say the GUI froze and I have to like refer to Control Alt F3. Well, in order to do this, I can actually simply do that and I can continue working just like how I always do. Well, I'm not gonna actually go through the trouble of doing all that, but I'll go back to the main user interface right now. We go Control Alt F7. So that makes it very convenient because these volume buttons, they are separate, so I don't have to worry about hitting function Control Alt F3 now, unlike in the new ThinkPad where I have to do that, which makes it very inconvenient to use. Now, like I said before, the Mac now, why do I keep comparing this to the Mac? Well, despite the the brightness up and down, for example, despite all that being actually covered as well into the function keys, this Mac has enough other stuff to make up for that fact. Where, see, the trackpad, if I were to use it, for example, it is very easy to use, and I want you to notice if I were to rub my hand on the actual trackpad itself, it doesn't actually move the cursor around because the sensitivity is not as bad as it is on the Lenovo ThinkPad, which makes this MacBook trackpad, despite it being a one-button trackpad, it makes it a very good one. So you go ahead and zoom out again. That's exactly why the Mac trackpads work and why the Lenovo ThinkPad, the new one, does not work. Now, I want to talk about again the retro ThinkPad because I promised I would say it again earlier in the video. I believe it was going to be talking about why Lenovo went in the right direction and actually fixed it. So let's go ahead and actually look it up right now, and I will show you an example as to why. Though there are still a few nitpicks I have with the so-called retro ThinkPad, which I will explain later. So let's go ahead and refer back to our web browser. So let's go ahead and actually look up this whole retro design that I was talking about. It was released around 2017. It's been a while back, but I also want to talk about something that ticks me off about how Lenovo is approaching this whole subject. And if I were to go to this first article, what they consider retro is the fact that the laptops have dedicated volume buttons. So let's go ahead and zoom in. Have dedicated volume buttons, have actually a good trackpad and track point. Apparently Lenovo sees this and considers this as retro, and that's something that we ThinkPad users might not appreciate, because in regards to the actual user experience of using the laptop, it doesn't feel good to be referred to as retro or people who refuse to move on to the next trend, when in reality, what made a ThinkPad great, its whole philosophy was the point that it was very easy to use, and also it was a unique way to operate your laptop as you were working, and also your workflow was basically almost uninterrupted, as you had track points to refer to when you were typing. So overall, that was what made the ThinkPads a unique laptop in the past, and they kind of lost way in the recent models. But so even though some people may say this is still not enough, but let me go ahead and go look at the actual Lenovo website, and you will see what I'm referring to when I say they are taking a step in the correct direction. Now, let me go ahead and make sure it loads. Okay, so I'm going to go to PCs and tablets. Going to go ahead and refer to laptops. All right, so let me see if the ThinkPad lines show about here. So, all right, let's go ahead and look at the T series T490. So I'm going to go ahead and, choose this as my. I hope that the website actually loads. Okay, here we go. So The price of this laptop, that's kind of irrelevant to this, but let's go ahead and look at the design. So, as you can see here, not only do they actually fix the buttons, but they actually managed to create that trapezoid shape again, which is very good because of the way your human hands are naturally set up. So it makes it not as inconvenient to have to bend your fingers into a kind of claw-like position like you did last time. And also, they actually, although this one doesn't have dedicated volume buttons like the retro ThinkPad does, at least they acknowledge that it is a step in the right direction to bring back the track point and what made the track point easier to use without having to refer to that ugly one-button trackpad. Now, when it comes to the prices, well, again, this depends on what. You don't have to actually get the newer ones. Like my T420 is from 2011, so it was a refurbished model that I bought back on eBay around 2016, and it has actually suited me very well despite that. So it's been around 4 years now since I bought that laptop a while back. And let's go ahead and I guess that's pretty much all I have to say about the ThinkPads. And let's see if Lenovo goes again and decides to take it even further and kind of like give a modern type of design to the ThinkPad, but also retaining what made the ThinkPad great in the first place, which I believe that would be the perfect laptop. So thank you very much for watching. This is xxRafael Productions, and I am signing off right now. So if you have any other questions, my Skype name is again in the video as always, and also it is in the beginning of the video as well. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.